Hey everybody, this is Gem Queen again, aka Game Show Guru. Now, here are some other examples where most ABC and CBS game shows just didn't even try. Here's another prime example. ABC did a series in 1975 on April 21st to the same day as both Password and Split Second were canceled, June 27th, 1975. The show was called Blankety Blanks. No structure to the Australian version of Match Game. This is just mostly a punned version of a basic word game. Now, this was hosted by Bill Cullen, which I have no discrimination to this man. He's a genius. But the problem was that this game show just failed beyond words. First of all, the show was broadcasted at 11:30, up against very stiff competition, meaning NBC's Powerhouse of the Hollywood Squares and CBS's Powerhouse soap opera of The Love of Life. Now, here's the structure of this program. Mostly, Bill would have to choose a electronic, computer card and put it into this electronic reader. So you have this big roulette wheel or fortune wheel, and Bill would pick one, and it would be one of either one of the contestants or one of the celebs, and they would have a point value. Now, they would range from 50 points to 1,000 points, and then you'd have a board which would show 6 missing words, or 6 parts to mostly a phrase. You would get mostly a subject and, like, say, know if it's a proverb or a noun or a verb or an adjective. You would have to mostly either the celeb or the contestant, depending on which one it aims at, would actually have to figure out the subject of or the theme to the subject. For whatever your point value costs up to, that's what you get. And you can convert that into dollars by solving a blankety blank. A very, very bad pun. And it was absolutely terrible. The show survived only 2 months in broadcast. Now, the pilot was a little bit more better. The only problem in this was that the point values were bigger, but the structure is still the same. The reason why I hate this show, that I think Bob Stewart didn't put any faith into this program, was doing the most irritable puns left and right. I call it the pun show, because that's what it was. A half hour of puns, of just seeing how bad. And trust me, having this show just literally get moans and groans from bad puns, I think that was a prime example of why this show never got ratings. And I can see why. After the show was canceled, they just brought back the Brady Bunch, and they played that in reruns until there was no tomorrow. See, I think a lot of the game shows really around that time were just there. Just trying to become, the popular year of 75 of, the greatest game shows of all time, and they just couldn't hold a candle. Even the 60s are mostly a prime example for ABC. ABC, in my opinion, has done the best game show of all time, Dream House, with Mike Darrow. This game, in my opinion, is the most amazing game show that they've ever done. Even NBC tried to do this, and believe it or not, actually were successful over the ABC version. But here's the difference. The ABC version started out in prime time on March 27th, 1968, and the daytime actually premiered 4 days before, on April Fool's Day, 1968. The prime time didn't survive as long, being on a Wednesday time slot at 8:30. The show in the prime time lasted until September 17th of 1968. And the daytime lasted on the second day of the new decade of 1970, January 2nd. And it was never replaced the following Monday. Nothing was replaced. Now, I love this show. I do. I love its structure because in the prime time you had to win 4 games, while in the daytime you had to win 7 games. Now, everything about it was done perfectly. I mean, you won a $40,000 house plus all the prizes that you got for each room that you played for, which can range up to a maximum of $10,000 in, or no, I take that back, less than $5,000. So you'd win about a house, including its, the deed and land, and they'd have contractors actually, build the house that you want to, in the place you want to live in. And that would be a total of, say, $45,000 in value. While in the NBC version, you could win a house plus its prizes, plus the prizes that you won, which would be over $125,000. And this is 1983, 1984. 1968, 1970, I think they were not even halfway to even hitting this, because they were a third, structure of that. But I think that was their best game show that they have done during the late 60s, early 70s. Besides Let's Make a Deal. But other ABC game shows that I thought were pretty terrible, like, say, Second Chance. Now, we know this is the first incarnation to, say, Press Your Luck. For most people who don't know this, I'll explain it. Second Chance is the first creation of what Press Your Luck was based off of. The only problem was that the board itself didn't shuffle, each time or every 5 seconds. The problem is that it just moves around. You just have this big one little space that goes around like a pinball machine, like you've normally done, but it goes faster than, say, the basic version, than the Press Your Luck version, and it only goes around only one strike. Now, which means that there's no movement, and plus you don't get to see the prizes. So if you land on a gift, you would know that you would get a prize, and then it would be a mystery until you landed on it. If you landed on either one of them, you would get a prize until you opened it. I think what should have been done in structure was, in my opinion, if I could, change this game myself, I would say hold the present or gift until you won the game, and then you would know what you won and add it to your bank, instead of just being surprised, here's the item, and then you land on a devil, and then it's like, okay, bye-bye, pride gone, and then have to, build up. Oh yeah, and the first one didn't have whammies. You had devils, like in The Joker's Wild. And no animation either. It was just there. And this series didn't last as long. The show lasted on March 7th, 1977 to July 15th of the same year. I wonder why this show failed. Well, probably for a few reasons. One being low tech, for one of those reasons. Now, I'm not saying that ABC was low tech from the start, or even the 70s being low tech. There was a lot of other game shows during the 70s where they actually were a lot of high tech and did very well. But only having one, one shuffle on the board, not having a shuffle other than the top, space on the board, the cash plus spin, that was the only thing that shuffled constantly. Everything else just sat there, so they were just cards. The gifts should have been like, you should have kept them, or like you can bank them, like you would do, like, say, in all the other game shows, like, like in The Weakest Link. And then what you can do is you can, kind of open them when you're ready, and then say, like, okay, I have this beautiful prize or prizes, and then I want to pass my spins. See, it would have made a lot more sense. So I think they took a lot more time on the question segment more than they did uh, the technical structure of the game. So that's why I kind of despised Second Chance. Another ABC game show that I hate to the death is The Neighbors. To a lot of people who've ranted on this online, I agree with you. I think this was cheap, stupid, and dumb. From the pilot into the series itself. I think it was more of a talk show more than a game show. You know, let's bring a group of women, you know, who have like nothing else to do in their lives other than completely gossiping about their neighbors, about every stupid little thing. In my opinion, after watching the only existing episode, I still hate it. You know, there's not really anything about it that really was funny or entertaining. I don't know how in the hell this show survived any more than a week. And how it actually had a pilot. How in the world could this even be a show? And just seeing Regis just try to hold his his composure, just saying, "Why am I here? What was the point that I wasted my time on this show?" It's mostly a Newlywed Game ripoff, according to Game Show Garbage, and I agree with with him 100%. I still hate this show myself, but there's many other game shows that I hate worse than this because the structure to it was not there. But I think technically The Neighbors being a 2:30, program, I think shouldn't have been a game show. I think it should have just been a talk show. I think they just could have had Regis Philbin do his own show on the ABC network at that hour, at that time, and just do neighbors stuff. Talk about your neighbors. It would have made a lot more sense than just turning it into a game show where you could win less than $1,000 and mostly a crappy, prize package that probably isn't even any worth more than say $2,500, and then you were done. Sorry, not really my cup of tea. Wasn't really a fan of the show, wasn't really happy with the show itself, and I'm glad that they ended it on a terrible note. But in my opinion, I kind of don't like most of these programs as much as, their only existing episodes. I have seen them, but I'm not impressed by them. I mean, it was probably good on paper, when they wrote it down and probably did a rehearsal, episode before a pilot was even aired and thought, okay, yeah, this was a good idea, and let's put it onto air and see how bad and then look at it probably about years later and said, what the hell were we thinking? Were we really that high when we thought of this idea? But like I said, there's many other game shows that I can rant and rave about why CBS and ABC failed. And believe me, this is just, this is going to be mostly a compilation of rants and a very short review of these programs and where I consider hating them to the death. Mostly putting out a lot of shout outs from, fellow ranters, uploaders who have talked about these shows in their opinions, anger, and everything else. So a lot of shout outs are, here for everyone who's been talking about these game shows and why they hate them, the uploads. I thank everybody for it. So I hope you still find some, other series that you guys like and hate, upload and everything else. So I hope everything starts moving up here. Well, I'm going to stop right here. It's going to be a short one this time, but I will start putting up some other ones sometime soon. But I hope everyone enjoys these little rants here about these two networks, and I hope you all enjoy your school years and everything else. Bye-bye, everybody.